projection.
Welcome everybody to Taking on Sports. I am TD. That is Greg. Greg, how you doing today?
I am good. How are you today, sir?
I'm pretty good, man. Pretty good. Happy belated Father's Day, sir.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank
First
you.
one.
First one, yeah, it's a good one. Made it to the first one. Uh, let's see, folks. We're hopping in. Looking at my notes here, we'll start with the NBA Finals. Uh, Finished last week. Denver was the easy winner, as we kind of thought they would be after knowing the matchup. Just ran through them. Miami just kind of ran out of energy there. I think ran out of
Yeah.
that Miami magic. Uh, Jokic was happy to get the win for his team and then get off and go back to his horses. Man really treats being an NBA star like his side job. Uh,
Right?
you gotta
Yeah.
love it though.
Now that I'm done with that, on to the important stuff.
Yeah, right. Like him asking, like, when's the parade? Oh, I don't know if I'll make it in time back for the races. Like,
I'm busy.
yeah, right. But he
uh,
seemed to have fun at that parade though. So I guess our two questions coming out of the finals for these two teams is Denver a looming dynasty, or did they benefit from maybe a weaker playoff field or whatever? And then do we think Miami will be back, or is this some sort of magic run?
well, as far as Denver, I mean, I think Denver is going to be a legit contender for a while. They keep that core together, keep
Hmm.
those pieces around. And that's the hard part because, people hear how good they are. They're going to want more money. They're going to get offers. So as we see with other teams, it's hard to keep everybody intact. But if they can keep everybody, for the most part, happy and intact, and they genuinely seem to like each other, it's not just on the court, they genuinely seem to be a pretty tight team there. So I think they're on the verge of something special if they can keep it all together, stay healthy. So
Yeah, I tend to agree. That's a good core there. And your two big guys there, Jokic and Murray, and then their supporting cast is just so great. And if they can keep them around, we'll see with this new CBA stuff coming in within the next couple of years.
right.
But that's also a place where guys might take a little less so they can go play with a guy like Jokic.
Oh yeah,
So they can play with a franchise. They're well coached. They seem to have great chemistry as a team. Um, those Denver fans do get into it, especially when they have a team to root for.
oh yeah,
You know, so yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you. I think that's a kind of they're going to be there in the conversation for a good few years to come.
oh yeah.
Um,
I really think so.
uh,
Because you look around the league and you see the other teams. I mean, there's other, there's nobody that you're like, oh man, they're going to be this much better. You look at, and we'll talk about it some. With the additions, even what Phoenix made, compared to where
mhm.
the other teams are, that are also considered, top Western Conference teams, especially. I think Denver's in a very good spot.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, it's going to be a tough conference, but they're so such a well-oiled machine.
Right.
Um, as for Miami, yeah, they might have to maybe add some parts. Shuffle
Yeah.
around, but I tend to think they'll be in that conversation in the East too. East isn't as tough a conference,
No.
and they're just such. We talked about it multiple times, but that organization is just so well run
Yeah.
that they're always going to be in conversation.
Exactly. Well run organization, and it's not like, I mean, they took what, Boston to 7 last year, and so I mean they were right on the verge of it last year as well. Making a finals run. Yeah, so definitely I think that they need to add another part, just because if you look at that roster outside of course, playoff Jimmy and Bam Adebayo, I mean a lot of those guys you're like, man, should they be starting in the NBA? Some of those pieces they had going in the finals. Of course, some of it, if they could get Tyler Hero back and if he could ever stay healthy.
Hmm.
And then, of course, there's all that talk about, possibly bringing Dame in. but I don't know what they'd have to give up in order to make that happen, or if that would work. But they're a smart organization. They're well run, and then, that they're not going to fall off hard. I don't think for sure they'll be in that top 3 or 4 teams kind of like they weren't as good during the regular season as they've been in past seasons, but I think they'll be in that conversation this year with the likes of course, the Bucks, the Celtics, that 76ers, that type of teams that we've come accustomed to being in the top 3 or 4 in the Eastern Conference there.
Yeah. Um, yeah, they showed that they're not afraid of anybody.
No.
So getting another star. You mentioned Dame. Yeah, getting another star on that team, I think, would be huge for them. Someone to take that load off Jimmy and just kind of help them. When they go into these slugfests that they had against like Boston, that they can survive it for the next round.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's it's a good place to go. You mentioned Dame and maybe him moving this year. NBA draft just happened this past Thursday. Despite all the rumors and big talk that Zion might get traded, we might have a big trade at number 2 or 3. None of that.
None of that happened.
Brandon Miller, Alabama boy, went number 2 to Charlotte. That was apparently their plan all along.
All right.
Scoot does go number 3 to Portland. So you do wonder now, do they try to flip him and get Dame somebody, or is it time to move on from Dame, or is Dame ready to move on finally
Right.
and go somewhere where he can try to win a title? Portland can try
Mm-hmm.
to rebuild around a young nucleus.
Exactly.
Because Scoot and Dame are kind of the same, except Dame's a much better shooter, obviously,
Right.
but
Yeah.
you don't need all those small guards you got on that team. So you figure before the summer's over, something's going to happen in Portland.
Someone's
Somebody's
moving.
going to get moved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would assume
Um,
more than likely it's gonna be Dame, just because why would you draft a new guy just to move him? But
yeah, exactly. So then, no surprises in that top 3. The rest of Cam Whitmore was the big kind of surprise in the first round, slid down to number 20, where Houston got him, and he was projected to them at 4 in a lot of mocks anyway. So that's a good value for them if his
yeah,
health problems, if those rumors aren't really that bad, that could
yeah.
have been overblown.
And that's a team. They're young. They have a lot of young talent in Houston. If they can
Hmm.
get it together, and um, I think they got a
They,
good coach down there. I think,
I was about to say they got the coach to
yeah,
do it now. If he can shape them up, man, that's like you said,
man,
so much young talent there.
sure, they could be interesting to watch in the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, it might be a fun team. Yeah, the check out on random national games if they get some spotlight.
Yeah,
Of course, the big things happened this week. Bradley Beal traded to the Suns for Chris Paul, and then Chris Paul goes out to Golden State.
yeah,
What? There's some other stuff too. That big 3-teamer. Chris Porzingis is now in Boston. Marcus Smart is in Memphis. Tyus Jones in Washington. Some picks and stuff with all that. But the big ones. We'll start, I guess, chronologically. Beal to the Suns. He's a great player, a good player, maybe. He can score. His numbers did slide the past couple of years, but you wonder if that may be just not caring. Washington had nothing
he's
going
tired
for
of
him.
being in Washington. Yeah,
Yeah. But I saw that and I just kind of don't.
I don't know what it
I
does.
get it. You're trying to get you get good players, and if he's the best available, then you try to get him. But you have Devin Booker, KD, and Bradley Beal there. They kind of all do the same thing.
Right,
Um.
all kind of ball dominant guys.
Hmm.
They all gonna want to get their shots. I mean, they're all three
Hmm.
great offensive players. I mean, if they could gel, I mean, it'd be fun to watch. But where's the bench? There's so many questions, and what else is in Phoenix? Where's the bench at? Is are they good? Is Aiden good in Phoenix now? Like,
Yeah. Is he? That's another thing. Yeah. Is he gone before the end of the summer too? Kind of
right,
like Dame in Portland. Like is Aiton long to stay there?
yeah.
Um.
Because that talk is kind of falling off. I don't know, just because where we're at in the summer, and that's going to pick up as we enter into free agency, or if if a bigger issue is with him and the coach, last year, and I'm not sure what that situation is right now, but I
Yeah,
haven't
that's
heard too
that's
much about
for
that.
yeah, it's really interesting there. Yeah, you mentioned last year, he didn't like Monty Williams. They didn't get along apparently, but now Monty's gone. So does that
Mhm.
make him happy? But he's also, he saw his kind of usage rate fall last year, especially after KD coming in. I mean, it's going to fall even more now.
Right,
And then from mentioning from a salary cap standpoint, like they got a lot of big contracts on that team. They need
big
to
contracts.
get some depth there. So
Right,
you would think that maybe Aiton's gone uh, to bring in a few more players or at least
they
create some
definitely need some
space.
depth. They
Yeah,
definitely need depth and bench players because, as we all know, I mean, you can have a good starting five, but if someone gets hurt or tired or foul trouble, then you're sunk, right? Real quick in the playoffs.
real quick. So we mentioned the part of that, Chris Paul, was a Washington Wizard for about a day. Now he's
Now
a
he's,
Golden State Warrior. So that's the weird one, man. That's another weird one. So now you
I
got
mean,
Chris
I
Paul with.
get it because I think that the long term goal was to move Jordan Poole because they don't want to, that whole situation last year um, with the little tussle in the preseason with with him, and then his disappearance in the playoffs, and the Warriors just
Mhm,
didn't seem to be themselves at all last year after they kind of, Draymond uh, didn't seem to be himself a lot of the season. They just seemed to be a different team, and maybe that's their move to try to get back to what they were in previous seasons.
mhm. And yeah, and, Chris Paul definitely gives you that kind of leadership role, and he's
Yeah,
gonna handle the ball and let
yeah,
maybe that frees up Steph and Clay to run around and run defenses ragged. Yeah, like
exactly.
they used to. Just that ridiculous running without the ball.
Right, because he doesn't really
Um,
have to score a lot in Golden State. He just distributes and runs
yeah, no.
offense. So we know he's a good leader. So maybe that's what they were looking for with him. But same time, you don't know how healthy he's gonna be. Do you not play him much in the regular season and save him for the playoffs because that's where you're gonna need him more than anything. Is just as
Hmm.
Phoenix kind of needed him in his past last year, and he was hurt. So be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. You would imagine a lot of load management and stuff
Yeah.
between all three of them, really.
Oh yeah.
Him, Stephen, Clay. Draymond opted out of his player option, but I think the word is that he's just going to resign for a cheaper deal,
Right.
team
Yeah.
friendly, maybe.
Because
Um,
I can't. That's one guy you can. I couldn't really see him being anywhere else. I just don't think he'd be happy and just be weird. Because no matter
yeah,
what, he just fits where he's at in that Golden State culture with Clay and Steph. That's kind of their thing, and I just don't see him being anywhere near what he's been at times anywhere else. That's just me.
no, yeah, he's so specific to
Yeah,
that squad and that franchise.
exactly.
Um, Going the other way, of course, was you mentioned Jordan Poole. I figure in Washington and them getting rid of Beal and Porzingis seems like maybe they're going into rebuild mode themselves.
Yeah, save a lot of
So I
money.
figure Poole, yes, they have a lot of money. They'll have that big contract with Poole, but it's the only one.
All right.
So you figure either maybe he plays the season some and gets traded again for some picks, or maybe he just is their guy that scores 30 some a night for him. Let him get his stats while the young guys kind of grow into the game.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of
Um,
seeing that being the case. Kind of him getting his 25, 30 points and
mhm.
probably a lot of meaningless points, but same time it helps the young guys, and in long term may help him get somewhere else as well. If someone's impressed with what he can do with his numbers when he's considered the top guy. So
Yeah. Let's see. Going else. Kyle Kuzma. Speaking of Wizards, he opted out as well, so he'll be a free agent.
hmm
kind of all over the place on rumors of where he might end up. So I'd be one to watch. Chris Middleton opted out, and
Yeah, I was shocked. I was kind of shocked by that one.
Milwaukee.
I didn't
I
think so.
wonder if that's maybe a team thing, like another
Yeah,
one of those playing like you're going to opt out, and we'll sign you
it's
something a
fine.
little
You
more
to
team friendly, so we can get some more guys in here.
right because I can't see
But
him
because
moving.
go ahead.
No, I was just saying I can't see him actually moving along. Right, he just kind of seems fit for the Buck system right now. Yeah,
Well, yeah, and what do they do if he leaves? They need to replace that and that scoring of his. So, because there was, they were in the Chris Paul run, and it seemed like
right.
there's some rumors of maybe getting him in there for Drew Holiday, which I wouldn't. I didn't like that for them. I'm a Drew Holiday fan, but
Yeah,
he
I
seems
like
like
Drew.
they need him in Milwaukee. He's a perfect fit
Oh
there.
yeah,
He that defensive piece he gives them,
exactly.
really that's really helped them make that championship run. He's not the most consistent offensive guy. He's going to have those bad nights,
No,
but
exactly.
he's always up there defense. And so many guys call him the best defensive player in the league. Like, um, when Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year, he deserved it, but a lot of guys were saying like, no, this should be Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's one thing, even on a bad shooting night, Drew's going to give you 110%. So,
yeah, and he's going to shut down. Like, yeah, the only
right,
guy I ever watched him struggle against really was the bigger guys. He can kind of, LeBron
right.
can kind of outmuscle him, stuff like that.
I mean, if that's your
But
worst, if that's your worst
yeah,
thing, is
exactly.
that you
Oh
couldn't
my
shut down
God,
LeBron.
one of the guys that's in the argument for greatest player of all time. You can't shut him down. Oh no, like how dare you? Yeah. Uh, but yeah, it's so yeah, that interesting situation to watch there in Milwaukee. See how they kind of retool. Of course, reports came out that Giannis, had a kind of a back injury, like
Right.
almost basically broke his back during that Heat series. So
Jeez.
maybe things aren't as bad as they seemed after losing to the Heat.
All right.
But we'll see where they go. New era, no more Coach Bud.
Yeah,
Um, but you figure, yeah, they're going to retool somehow. Um,
exactly.
let's see what else I got here.
The
Oh, we talked about
Celtics,
that that three teamer. The Celtics getting KP. That's an interesting one. Gives them another
they needed another
big
point
dude with
guard.
shaky injury history. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
I didn't
So
understand.
yeah, where do they go?
I thought it made more sense for them personally to get Tyrus Jones in that situation. I thought he'd been a perfect
Hmm.
fit in Boston, but
Well, and they did need something, another big guy,
right.
because you can't run Al Horford out there for 30, 40
Yeah,
minutes a game anymore.
because
He's getting.
how old is Al now?
Al was in college when we were in college,
He was
man.
on
That,
the
like,
he
I
was
swear
on
to God,
the Florida teams that won the titles. So yeah, yeah. I mean, he's
yeah, he
been
was on those
quite
back to back title winning Florida
yeah.
teams, man, with what's his face, Joakim Noah,
Yeah,
and all
Joe
those
Kim and
dudes.
all those guys, and all those guys are long gone.
Yeah, right. Uh, so props to him for staying around. But you
Yeah,
figure they wanted, but between him and between Horford and KP and who's their other big man, Williams, Robert Williams.
yeah,
Those are three guys that can't really. They all might. Hopefully, they just get injured at different points in the year. So you at least
yeah.
have two of them.
Because KP, when he came to Dallas for a while, I was excited, and then
Hmm.
he always got hurt, and it was always around playoff time. So I was just so ready for him to move when he moved. But yeah, I mean, if when he's healthy, he's a heck of a player. Still, it's just a matter of big if if he can stay healthy.
Yeah,
And
I mean, like, yeah, he's a good unicorn in his talent. Like he's a big guy that can shoot, and
exactly,
handle, and he can move. He had a career year this year for Washington, so maybe, like
yeah,
you said, if he can stay healthy, that's big, big get for uh, the Celtics. That's
yeah.
huge for them,
And
because
then
that gives them kind of a different dynamic than Horford does.
exactly. And
Gives
then I
them a little
also
floor
like
spacing. Yeah.
what excuse me, the Celtics did with their coaching. I mean, they brought in Sam Cassell, they brought in another
Hmm.
top guy. I can't think of his name right now. Just to give Joe some more veteran guys around him there. I think that probably help out. And worst case scenario, long term, if that didn't work out with Joe, you might have your next guy right there. A Sam
Yeah.
Cassell
Exactly.
type
Yeah.
or something like that. But I think just with how the Heat Celtics series ended, things got better at the end. Outside that game 7, I mean, they really made a comeback, and I think Joe kind of showed, hey, I'm a young not a lot of the playoff experience, but they adjusted and got better. So I think they're in a better spot than what people thought for toward the end of the Heat before they went on their two before they made it a series there.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, we'll see there. Of course, the big talk was Jalen Brown might go somewhere. That doesn't seem like it'll happen now, but
No,
it's off season, it's early in the off season
right?
still.
Yeah,
Um. Like we mentioned, no big Zion trade, no big like foundation shaking blockbuster really outside of CP3 and Beal moving.
right.
Um, Pelicans stood pat, drafted Jordan Hawkins from UConn. Your Mavs made a little trade
Oh yeah,
back to 12
back to
there.
12. Still got our guy from Duke, rim
Yeah, there you
protector.
go. Yeah, rim protector. Kind of one of the kind of the quote unquote experts were kind of down on. But if that's what you need, then you go get him and you hope that he can live up to potential.
Right, and hopefully
I
that's
saw one mock I saw that it was like best case is that he's Tyson Chandler, and I'm like, yeah, that's not bad then.
that's
That's
not a bad situation at all because
no, that's what you need.
Tyson helped us win the title, and yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think Derek could be a talented guy. And I guess long term, everybody was so mad about the Mavericks sitting folks at the end, but it seemed to work out well for us in
Yeah,
the
they
long
got
run.
what they wanted. So
Yep,
we'll see what happens with their free agency and if
for sure.
Kyrie actually does come back there.
Yeah,
Um, let's see, Alabama boys. We mentioned Brandon Miller going number 2
yeah,
to Charlotte, which I do think is a good fit. That's what they need. I think he'll be able to score there. I think Lamelo can facilitate to him.
yeah.
Um, I
They
think that's a good situation for him there.
for sure.
He won't have like too much pressure on him right away, and they got a lot of other talent there. They just need to put it together.
Exactly. I mean, they
Um,
could be it. I wouldn't be shocked if they're back in that hunt at least for a play-in spot there with that team if they stay healthy.
yeah. Then you got Noah Clowney went 21st
Yeah,
to Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Um, Also, kind of filled a good need for them there. Another team with a lot of young talent there. So hopefully he'll be allowed to grow. He's a guy that you don't really expect to make much of an impact this year. His rookie year might even
No,
spend some time in the G League. But
right. But he just has so much upside and potential that you see that
mhm.
what he could be down the road for sure.
Yeah, our guy Chuck Bediako didn't come back. Unfortunate for Alabama.
Yeah,
He ended up in San Antonio, did not get drafted, signed at
right.
San Antonio's undrafted free agent. Another guy you probably expect to a lot of G League time, but if you can learn under Greg Popovich, then hey, that's
Yep. I mean,
not
that's a good
not bad right
good
there.
place for him
Yeah.
to have gone there, and hopefully it works out for him. I think a
Don't
lot
know
of
if they have any big men in front of him. Maybe I could think of one. Maybe they got some French guy or something like that, right? Uh, but yeah. So anything from the off season or the draft you want to touch on?
Not a whole lot. It was one of those drafts. It was just I don't know. It just didn't have I mean, it had some nice players, but not, I guess not a whole lot of star power. So not the most exciting draft, but maybe as far as that aspect. But very, I think some. It's just interesting just how many guys. I think the most interesting part is just how many guys who never really played college ball are getting drafted now. From like the Atlanta League and the G League, and
Hmm.
that just seems to be a much more common route, even more so, and continue to be so as we move further along with the people really not going to college anymore.
Yeah, and you would hope that sometime in the near future, the NBA does something about the one and done.
Yeah, just open it back up. Just,
Yeah, open it back up or do something. I kind of like what baseball does, and you can get drafted out of high school and you can go play for the team and the minors and whatnot.
hmm
Or if you choose to go to college and you have to stay 3 years, I think it is.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
just do something like that. Maybe make it two
yeah,
for basketball. So I think that would be good because you don't have
yeah.
these. It was great to have Brandon Miller this year. It was amazing,
Oh yeah,
awesome. We love that as an Alabama fan, but also like it does suck that now like all this roster turnover, and you combine that with the transfer portal. I mean, like in Alabama, we're looking at almost a brand new team
Man, a whole
this
new
fall
team.
in Tuscaloosa. Yeah. Whereas if you get, those guys, that's what used to make college ball so fun is, yeah,
Yeah,
you'd have your star players that might leave after 1, 2 years or something like
right.
that. But you'd have those guys that stick around. And, I mean, Dwayne Wade stuck around 4 years at Marquette, right?
Yeah.
Uh, not a lot
Nowadays,
of hype on him in college.
yeah, nowadays he definitely would have been out the door.
Yeah. Or if he'd even,
Even
waited
been
on.
told, hey,
But,
you could possibly go one in the first round. He's definitely out the door. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, you look at guys like a Noah Clowney, it's just the possibility, he gets invited there to the green room or whatever. That's all it takes. So why not just, if these guys don't want to stick around, let them go to high school, or let them go straight from high school or the
Start
G League. That's a perfect path for those guys if they want to get paid while they're developing. Or if guys want to do the college thing, let them go, but just be like, all right, you just
pay
got to
their
stay 2 years. That's fine.
NIL.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and even now with the NIL, I mean, a lot of the guys like Noah
Hmm.
Clowney, I'm sure he's going to get some NIL money, so it's not like they're like, oh, I'm not getting anything while I'm waiting in my years. So, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you look at a guy like Bronny, not that he needs it, but he can over there in USC, he's going to be all kinds of NIL money.
man, all the
You
time.
can do that as opposed to, and you get, honestly, you get more exposure in college game than you do in the G League or going to play in
Exactly.
Australia or Europe.
Right.
You're going to get, especially if you have a spotlight. You can
Yeah, if you're at a
spotlight in the
major
NCAA
major
tournament.
program, if you're at a major
Um,
program, you're gonna get on TV at least, but 10 times a year, national time. So, yeah,
yeah, but all right. Let's see. I think that's about it for NBA talk. Like I said, we covered the big stuff. Draft this week, like you mentioned, it was just kind of there was a 3 team or 3 player draft, and then after that, it kind of went. There was no big surprises other
right,
than Whitmore sliding, but that might not be a big deal
right.
at the end of the day. It's just about seeing what these young guys actually do. Is
Exactly.
Weminyana the real deal? But so we'll move on. Next on my list, I have the other big news from a couple of weeks since we've last talked was the SEC released its football schedule for 2024.
Oh
They
yeah,
did say they're going to keeping the 8 games, no divisions though. They did say this is a 1 year thing before they figure out their permanent option. Um, I guess I'll just start off with that. I think that's just silly, kind of stupid. Like, just give us whatever your permanent option is. Like the fact that they had all these meetings and couldn't figure out what their permanent option is going to be, and then their, I guess their rivals, so to say, in the Big Ten, not only figured out what they're doing once they moved to 16 teams with USC and UCLA,
right.
but they put out a schedule option that everybody loves, that flex, that 9 team kind of
Yeah,
flex schedule, as they call it, where some teams are going to have 3 permanent opponents, some might only have 1 or 2, but you're
exactly.
going to play every other team within that 2 year window every 2 years. Um,
Yeah, you would have thought all those smart minds in a
mm-hmm.
couple of days and whether they at Destin or wherever they normally meet for those SEC meetings could have come up with a full thing there. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and
And
it just seems dumb to not go to 9 games. I think the reason people are, it seems the reason that they didn't want to go, that the argument for 8 is that they might lose a couple teams in bowl eligibility. But if that's true, then what you're telling me is that you're letting like the Kentuckys and Mississippi States dictate what you do. I mean,
yeah, that's
like
not a
no
good
offense to
look.
those programs, but they shouldn't dictate what you do in football.
No,
Like the trade off is that you get, okay, so
you
maybe,
get
a team like that, Kentucky or Arkansas, misses a bowl game, but then you get maybe on the top end, you get
you might
maybe
get three
an
team in the
Alabama
playoff.
or, yeah, exactly. You get more teams in the playoffs with it moving to 12 teams
Exactly.
next season, not this upcoming, but next. I mean, you can get, I mean, realistically, you look at Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida,
And you
Tennessee,
might,
emergent, re-emergent. You can
man,
get
some
like
years you
6
might
teams in
get
the playoff
four.
on a good year.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're looking at quite
Um,
a few possibilities to make the playoff.
but yeah, so I just, get it together, guys. Like, just quit. Like, just go to the 9 team schedule, do whatever you want to either steal the Big Ten's model because that is great. Or, go to the, like we talked about a couple months ago, the three permanent rivals, figure those out and then just play.
Go
Uh,
around
it's
and get the other ones around it and figure out how to play so some teams play because it's a lot of teams that still have not played. Like what is it? A&M still hasn't had Georgia come to Texas A&M yet, or something like that,
they
or
still not, yeah. Georgia has still not come to College Station, and they were supposed to next year. That's
right?
uh, perfectly lead into that. They were supposed to next year under the original schedule, but now with the new schedule, they do not again. uh,
Craziness.
Still no A&M and Georgia. They have only played once, period, since
Yeah,
uh, A&M joined the SEC. That's just
crazy. It's
ridiculous.
been this is year 10.
Yeah, that's some like 1940s scheduling. Like
Yeah,
like some old school where like, oh, the conference didn't control the schedule, and we just kind of agreed to play each other. It's like, okay, well, that's
yeah,
technically what the conference is supposed to be there for, guys, to handle that kind of
yeah.
administrative stuff.
You would think
But
so.
we'll get to the highlights. We'll start with Bama, of course. Alabama gets Auburn, of course, the big one, and we'll start with the home games. They get the Iron Bowl at home, Georgia at home. That's, I think, the big highlight everyone saw.
Oh yeah,
And then Missouri and South Carolina, and then on the road to Oklahoma, Tennessee, LSU, and Vandy. In addition, they're off out of conference. They visit Madison to play Wisconsin. So that's a tough schedule
definitely.
for Bama next year.
Yeah, really is. And big, three big road games. I mean, at Tennessee, at Norman, at Baton Rouge. Nice. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like
definitely.
I said, in addition to going up early in the season, you go up to Wisconsin, who,
Yeah.
not the,
I mean, they're not a
quite the powerhouse they used to be, but
but
still, you never
that
know. It's a tricky game.
atmosphere. Alabama coming
Yeah,
into town. Yeah, they're gonna be ready. It's gonna be
yeah, it's
quite the
gonna be a
atmosphere.
rocking venue. Yeah, they when they play jump around, they might break those stands jumping.
And even the
Especially if
home
they're in the
games. I
game.
mean, you look at Georgia. We know how. I mean, Georgia's still gonna be Georgia next year unless something crazy were to
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Yeah.
Auburn is this Iron Bowl. You never know with Iron Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri, who knows? And then, of course, I think South Carolina, not too worried, but, they're up and coming. They're still, you know, young in the Shane
The Shane
coaching,
Beamer era.
yeah,
Yeah.
Shane Beamer era. But we've seen so much improvement in, just he's recruited well, brought in players, and has a lot of excitement, and maybe hasn't been there since the Spurrier days.
Yeah. Yeah, that South Carolina one would worry me a little more if that were on the road. I'd be
Yeah,
like, ooh, that could be
that
tricky.
were in Columbia, but in Tuscaloosa, not too worried.
Yeah, but that is a tricky, like you said, Norman for the first time since that was oh
Two.
two,
That was our
oh
freshman year.
two, yeah. Yeah, the freshman year, that was the that was the game that started the Lane Bearden for Heisman campaign.
Yeah.
Scored on the fake extra point field goal, whatever that was, recovered the onside kick, did everything before, the those damn shuttle passes, and then Tyler Watts throwing the ball
Oh,
backwards. Yeah, tough, man. Those were tough. Those was a good series, good home and home series with them back there in 02,
oh
03,
yeah.
and just two tough losses for Alabama. They had
Man,
them on the ropes both times.
the 03 one where we have them and they hit the damn fake punt.
Oh man, they
We-
talked about that. I watched the schedule reveal on SEC show, and they were
yeah.
talking about that. And they had I forget the guy who was on there, but he's a Sooner that played on those teams. And
Uh,
I think was it Feinbaum maybe was talking, and he was like, Alabama should have won that game, and he goes, "What we did though," and then they mentioned he's like, "Yeah, that's when he fake punt, from his own like 30-yard line," and
it was so loud. We were so loud
it
that
was, yeah, if I remember right, it was after we had scored a touchdown,
yeah,
and I think we were within 3 or something like that,
and yeah,
and
that'd be
then got a couple
quick three and
sacks,
out.
got like a second, yeah, quick 3 and out, like a second and third down sack, like they were backed up big time.
They
And
were
then the
going
punter just
crazy.
noticed something. If I remember the afterwards, I think Stoop said that they had noticed one of our gunners was cheating up, trying to come block, and he told the punter, if you see it again, don't, feel free to throw the fake. And that's exactly what happened. They got like, what, a 40-yard gain. That guy was just wide open, and they scored a couple of plays later and kind
Yeah,
of
kind of.
sucked the air out of Bryant Denny.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was rocking.
yeah,
But so that should be a good one. Other big highlights, we get the return of Texas and Texas A&M
yeah.
finally. Whatever you think of those teams, those programs, that is a great rivalry game. Should have never went away. Just all
No,
this dumb administrative shit just
yeah,
hurts the fans and the players. But we get it back now, and I believe it's in
yeah,
College Station too.
yeah.
So that's you wonder if that was like A&M being like, all right, well, if you let these guys in, we need the first home game then.
Oh,
So um, Texas and Arkansas, we get that rivalry back. That's another big one. We get Oklahoma, Missouri, a little going back to the Big Eight
big,
days.
big 8 days. Yeah,
Um, Texas's highlights, their big ones are Florida and Georgia. Um, I didn't put down on my notes here where they go for those games. I do forget that, but
they're both going to Florida, Georgia, both coming to Austin. It looks like.
oh, really? Okay, there you go. Um, so those are big brand name games right there.
Yeah,
Man, Georgia not an easy schedule. They got to go to Tuscaloosa and Austin the same year. Woo.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh, yeah. Have come to. Um,
it'd be in-
yeah,
uh, that'll be interesting to see how those games are spaced out too. What games are early, what games are later in the
right.
year.
Exactly.
We'll get that later down the line. But let's see, Oklahoma, they play Alabama as we mentioned, and they also get Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU. Um, so that's pretty good. Pretty good lineup there for the new guys.
Yeah, they get some tough one going to Auburn and LSU on the road in the first time. I mean, that's nothing you can't handle just because they're you know good. But I don't think going to Baton Rouge and Auburn is much different than going to Iowa State or Kansas State. No disrespect to those guys, but just a completely different atmosphere.
No, yeah, for like you said, no disrespect at all, especially a program like Iowa State who kind of made a habit out of scaring teams if not beating them. But
Just, uh,
yeah, it's a whole different ball game when you got to go down to Death Valley, especially if they put that one at kind of prime time.
oh yeah,
And if you've never experienced, that Jordan Hare magic, that voodoo there, then that's a whole new thing.
yeah,
So Sooner fans, if any of y'all happen to listen to us, I hope you are prepared to lose a game in the most frustrating, excruciating, what the fuck way, because it will happen to you at least once.
yeah,
Welcome to the SEC. You have to lose to an Auburn team that has no business beating you,
yeah,
and it's going to happen because like this a field goal snap bounces off your kicker's head or something, and Auburn takes it back. Or you're going to just get scared to death and pull out a last minute drive, like kind of the Iron Bowl last time it was in down there on the plains.
yeah, yeah.
Let's see, yeah. So those are kind of the big highlights.
Uh,
Along with your usual kind of SEC rivalries, the big ones. Nothing really big went away. Notable games missing: no Alabama and Mississippi State for the first time since 1943. I think,
yeah.
if I
After
counted that
World
right.
War, first time since World War II, and that was the only reason.
Yeah.
Yikes.
80 years. That's crazy. That's why when we made the case for our permanent three rivals when we kind of did that schedule a few
Yeah,
months ago. That's why I put state in there because, yeah, LSU's the big one, and that's the TV ratings and that's the big money matchup. But state is, it's the two closest campuses in the SEC, and those teams have been playing forever. I don't think Alabama's played any team more than Mississippi State. Also, there will be no Auburn LSU. That'll be a weird one to miss out on.
yeah, because that's
Um,
usually a heck of a game.
hmm Yeah, and even when those teams are both bad, that's some craziness pulling out or something. LSU also, there will be no LSU Mississippi State. That's another long-standing kind of close border war.
Yeah,
No Georgia South Carolina. I mentioned earlier, still no A&M and Georgia in College Station, and no Alabama A&M. So the Jimbo Saban rivalry goes on hold for a year next year. I think I can see it in my notes here. I already mentioned the Big Ten. Do think the Big Ten has a great model. I think all conferences that go that big should um, decide to. They should pull from that.
Mhm.
And then I think it's fairly even. I didn't. There's no one team that stands out to me like, oh damn, they got screwed, or like, oh what the
Well,
hell, like they got an
I
easy
would
skate.
say overall, just with what they, I thought Florida has a pretty tough schedule. Not only more so maybe because of the out of conference as well, but that
Mm,
2024 Florida Gators schedule with you know out of conference. Of course, they play Miami. Well, we don't know what Miami will be. They play UCF. So that Florida Gators 24 out of conference schedule, in addition to their main conference, that's going to be one of the toughest schedules on paper, at least right now. I think in America.
yeah, real quick on that. So yeah, they get Miami. It is in Gainesville. They get UCF in Gainesville, which you know that goes up and down on whether UCF is a legit good team or not. But they when they play those in-state schools, they play those bigger schools. Man, they get really hyped for
Yeah,
them.
they get ready for those.
And the Gus Bus, you never know what weird stuff he's going to pull out.
Yeah,
Um, and then yeah, of course they got the Georgia game. Of course they got Florida State. They got to go to Tallahassee for that one.
yeah.
And then yeah, the rest of their SEC schedule, they get Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, A&M, State, Tennessee, and
Not
Texas. So
easy.
yeah, that's
There's not a give me on this schedule.
there really isn't. There's not a Samford. That's their gimme game. Samford.
Yeah, but outside
Um,
of Sanford, that's a jeez. You're like, man, and we've seen
yeah, that's
Kentucky win
ooh, yeah.
a couple in a row. We've seen Mississippi State beat them. I mean, we've seen yeah. There's not one where you're like, yeah, Florida definitely can win that. Thanks.
No, yeah, and see Georgia's SEC skate. That's pretty. Yeah, it's a little rough for Georgia too. That Auburn, Florida State, Tennessee, Bama, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Texas. You figure Georgia should run roughshod over like teams like State, Kentucky, maybe even Ole Miss. But Ole Miss is one of those unpredictable teams.
You never know
You
though,
just
man.
never know what the hell. Yeah, any given day.
Yeah, but yeah,
But yeah, I figure for the one and done schedule, they did pretty good.
yeah,
Like I said, after the initial reveal and looking at it, nothing jumped out to me. Like, what the hell? Like, how come they got off? Like,
yeah.
um,
Everybody has some
and
tough road games. Nobody really got up.
mhm. Yeah, everybody's got at least like one big road game and one
Hmm.
big home game.
Yeah,
So, but like we said, hopefully, okay, good job for this year, but just go to 9 games and figure it out.
figure that out.
Should have already been done. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Let's see. We can go. That's pretty much it for the big stuff there. In my notes here, I got mentioned. Let's see. Oklahoma won their third straight Women's College World Series. We kind of already talked about that.
So
They
dominant.
just it's so dominant, such a dynasty. They didn't lose all year. Still, and they just don't get talked about, and they should. Um,
Yeah, just because it's a
Softball's
women's.
a big enough sport now. Yeah,
Yeah,
softball's a big enough sport now to where it's not like for as great as those like early Pat Summit, Tennessee, and Gino, UConn women's hoops teams were, you could make an argument for back in the day, like there just weren't a lot of
there wasn't a lot of
great women's teams. Yeah,
them and them.
but
You know,
yeah, but you can't make that argument now in that sport or in softball. There's so many good programs in softball now that
yeah.
the Sooners should be getting more love.
Oh yeah, because what they've done
And I
is
even made it's insane, and I think I even let me go here. I think I made a tweet about it on the Taken on Sports account here about just how good they have been over the past decade and
and
some
they won.
change
They've
here.
been outside that. They've won what 5 of the last 7 or something like that.
Let's see. Let me get it pulled up here. I know I've got it here. That definitely made it as a scrum. Oh yeah, there's one quick piece tidbit. Grant Nelson from North Dakota State expected to transfer to Alabama, so that'd be a big addition for hoops.
Oh yeah, love it.
Um, Here we go. Yeah, a tweet. Oklahoma softball's dominance not talked about nearly enough. They have 51 straight wins. They won their actually. I think that number even bumped up 52 or three now. They have now three titles. That makes 6 in 11 years. They also additionally lost in the finals in the championship series in 19 and 12. They you can safely assume that they would have been in the mix in 20 had that year not got canceled.
Oh yeah,
They've also won 11 straight Big 12 titles, and they additionally made the World Series in 14, 16, 17, and 18. That is insane dominance.
big
Uh,
like out of all sports, like no one's touching that anything. Like
yeah,
complete domination.
no.
And like you said, yeah, I mean it's a completely a sport that's evolved and has just so much talent everywhere. You know, there's talented Pac-12 teams. We know how stacked the SEC is, and yet OU just continues to roll.
Yeah. Oh, and guess what? They come to the SEC next year
Yeah,
too. So that just
just
makes
to
the
add,
SEC
just to add
schedule
to
that much
the,
tougher.
just to add to the SEC. And that's
Yeah.
another thing. Even they weren't as good this year, but usually Texas has a pretty good softball team too. So, but
Hmm.
SEC
Yeah.
softball is going to be something crazy.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. That's historically it's them and the Pac-12 that have been the big conferences in softball, and I don't see that changing.
No,
Baseball wise, right now LSU took game one of the championship series over Florida yesterday. Boys in Tuscaloosa, valiant effort against Wake Forest. They kind of got screwed by the umps in that first game, the Super Regional.
first game we were
Lost
right
a tight
there.
one.
Yeah, that was on.
Yeah,
And then we just got housed.
yeah, and then Wake does and just beat the crap out of them. Broke a record for home runs in I think a Super Regional game.
Every other pitch seemed to be going out. Wow.
Yeah, just cranking them out. Not much you can do there. And then Wake Forest, lost to LSU. About the only team that really I think could have beat them. I think it was the only team that was number one besides Wake Forest this year. So, and then Alabama named Rob Vaughn from Maryland their new head coach, and baseball manager. They did retain Jackson as an associate head coach and pitching coach. So I think that's good for continuity. I don't know much about Rob Vaughn except that he's back to back Big Ten Coach of the Year at Maryland,
Right.
and I never knew them to have a great program. So if you can make Maryland a good program, then that's good.
Hey.
So
Yeah. But
yeah,
it's a
it seems.
whole different beast, though, because Big Ten does not take baseball seriously at all. Completely different beast in the SEC. But I guess the biggest thing, too, losing our freshmen like that, Florida snatched them up out the portal. I was like, geez.
Yeah, the what's Cade or Caleb,
Yeah.
or I forget. I know what you're talking about, but yeah, kind of a shocker to lose him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Freshman led in home runs and set records and on to
yeah,
Florida to get richer in baseball.
yeah, right, yeah, a team that, like we said, is in the championship series right now. But it is what it is. Oral Roberts made his little Cinderella run to the World Series. Good for them. There were what, one, two, three SEC teams in it. Just good. It's been a fun postseason to watch
Oh,
in baseball. It's been a lot of good games
yeah.
too, like a lot of good games in this College World Series.
Yeah, the College World Series for the most part has been pretty epic. A lot of
Hmm.
a lot of future MLB stars have been in Omaha. This a lot of epic pitching battles. Like the other night, that Wake Forest LSU went to the 11th, and the walk off in
Hmm.
the 11th, first runs of the game. The LSU pitcher last night was 17 strikeouts. Gee,
Yeah, it's just insane. Their counterparts in the pros, they're chugging along. Notable things happen. The Angels won 25-1 yesterday,
they were up
and
25-0 after like the fourth
yeah, like
or
23-0 after the fourth inning.
geez,
So that was ridiculous.
killing Colorado.
Cubs and Cardinals currently playing in
In London.
London.
Yeah.
Um, that Reds guy. What's it? Cruz, De La Cruz, whatever.
Oh, he's gonna be something special, I think.
He is going to be great. Yeah, one of the
Man,
youngest guys to hit for the cycle. What, like second youngest ever or something like
yeah,
that. And then the
they
Braves broke their 12-game winning streak. The Reds, yesterday.
finally
You
lost.
know, they're hot on their own part. They had 8 wins in a row before they lost in the Friday night when the guy got the cycle. Let's see. Aaron Judge has a torn toe ligament, so
Yeah,
they don't know when he'll be back. So it's going to be interesting to see with the Yankees. The Rays still rolling along.
there is
Um,
good ball.
yeah, we're getting closer to the All Star. I think Otani and Acuna, the respective leading vote getters, and their little stage thing they do now. So they are both starters. Um, but yeah, you still got like the Orioles. They're still right there behind the Rays. They're still
Still hanging around.
it's
Not going
hanging around. The Rangers still leading the AL West. The AL Central still a demolition derby,
crapshoot.
as is the
As
NL
always,
Central. Yeah,
those two are always the same. Those are the ones that
hmm
are always wide open. At least three teams are in contention until the last week of the season. So, and
right.
usually someone's right above five, right around 500 is the champion. No
hmm
one ever runs away with the division.
Yeah. Literally right now, the Twins are leading the AL Central, and they are 39-39. The NL Central is not the Reds with their big winning streak we mentioned. They are now 5 above 500 and have a 1.5
Right.
game lead over Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
Surprising there that the Cardinals are one in last place. They're
Cardinals
14
are
games
bad.
under 500.
Yeah, the Cardinals are playing bad baseball, and that's one thing that's a proud franchise. So I know that they
hmm
that St. Louis fan base, they got to be like, what the heck's going on? Especially as weak on paper as Essential looks, you would think, well, how the hell are we 1400? But
Yeah. Um, the Phillies got hot, so they've kind of turned it around from their slow start. So they're back above 500. The damage is kind of done there. They're still 10 games back from Atlanta in that
yeah,
division. Though, as we saw last year, Atlanta came back from 10 and a half from about this
so you
point in
know,
the year. So never know, but Atlanta doesn't seem like a team that they're going to
no,
have a big slide.
that's
And they're doing a lot of this, and a couple of their aces are still hurt.
right. Yeah, Atlanta's pretty serious, I'd say. Like
Ronald Acuna, I believe, now has 35 stolen bases. He's going to get 40 before the All Star game.
crazy.
People were talking about him being a 40-40 guy. He might, I think 16 homers, I think is where he's at. So he's
Forever.
at least going to be a 30-50 guy. If not, he might steal about 60 bases this year.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the modern
Definitely
day,
early MVP candidate
the
there. The
modern day Ricky.
Diamondbacks, yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, that is one crazy thing. We'll never see those days again, though. People stealing 180 bases in a season.
Oh yeah, crazy.
80s were a track meet.
Yeah,
And then the other thing, the Diamondbacks, a surprise out in the NL West too. But yeah, so it's baseball time now. We got a couple of the Gold
yeah,
Cup going on
yeah.
in
Let's play.
soccer. The Women's
Let's
World
play.
Cup coming up shortly. Um, let's see. But anything else from the world of sports you want to touch on?
Let me think. No, I think we pretty much covered most everything. It's
I
just
think. Oh, I guess did the big PGA Live thing? Did that happen? I guess, but I don't
yeah.
think either
So
one of us watches a lot of golf.
not a lot of golf, but I guess in the realm of news, as holy as the PGA tried to make it seem, oh, we're the good guys and we're not going to get down
Yeah,
with that dirty money and after a year, wait a minute, we kind of need this.
yeah. That's the one thing with me. They that whole act, and then telling guys like don't defect, like stay for the sanctity of the game, and then they went and made this deal without telling the players on the tour.
Yeah.
That's the fucked up part.
Like what?
Um, Yeah, like a lot of those guys found out the same way we did, which was just through,
Yeah,
like a Twitter or
through the
whatever
bottom
you get your
line.
news from, the breaking
Right.
news. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be pissed off too if
Yeah.
I turned down,
X
nine
millions
figures,
because they told
yeah,
me, hey,
hundreds of millions of dollars because
yeah,
you're like, you know what, they're right. Like we should do this for the sanctity of the tour. And then the tour is like, actually, we're going to merge with them.
yeah. Say,
Um,
wow. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, that pretty much covers all the big stuff from since we've last talked to y'all. Just looking on news sites, see if there's anything that's kind of breaking. There usually is always one thing that happens right after we stop recording.
Right.
Um, but no, nothing really going on there. So we'll get to it. Greg, what's been done up real good for you lately?
For me, really good. I guess just last weekend with Father's Day, enjoyed that. My daughter's been taking some summer school classes, so got her first high school classes out of the way. It's
Ooh,
crazy. She's be a freshman in high school.
oh man,
Yeah,
that's insane.
that is insane. How about you?
I guess same thing. First Father's Day last week, it was cool. As my father-in-law joked, we went over the Mississippi to my brother-in-law's house. It was his first Father's Day as well.
Nice.
Um, so he cooked out a little bit.
Mhm.
They got this nice new outdoor kitchen kind of set up. So he cooked out, and our father-in-law, when we got there, was kind of at first he's like, I thought it was weird that we're going over Blake's. Why not everybody just come over here? And then I had to remember, oh wait, this isn't just my holiday anymore. Like I got to share it with y'all. Damn
Yeah.
it. So we're like, yep.
Oh,
And
man.
then it's stark contrast from my mother-in-law, who she was like, my Father's Day gift was something for Mercer. She's like, when they're this young, they get the gifts, and it's not about you yet. So she kept me in line.
That's funny.
um, but yeah, so that's cool. So it was just fun. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
nice, relaxing, do a little cookout. So that's it. We will see you guys again in a couple weeks. Don't know. We'll figure out what we'll talk about. I might see if I can dig up some old stuff from Dateline, Alabama. Maybe dig up some really old takes for us. Compare, maybe
Yikes.
we'll go in the vault and pick fun at our 20-some-year-old selves.
Yikes. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
looked
yikes.
back at some of those and be like, what?
I do every now and again when we've moved. We obviously in the house now, so we haven't moved in a couple of
Yeah.
years, thank God. But I'd always come across like some binder or something like that with all those old columns in it printed out, and like, oh man, what was I thinking?
Like, what
Just
was this?
read a couple of these takes and be like, what the hell? Like, ah, dang. It's like I predicted who to win, like
It's hot takes before hot
so
takes for a thing.
exactly, yeah, the spiciest. Just so yeah, we'll figure out something fun to talk about since it's just gonna be baseball.
Right.
Or maybe something, like I said, usually after we stop recording, maybe
No,
some
yeah.
big trade will happen in the
The
NBA or something.
NBA will, the NBA will have something for us.
Yeah, yeah, something no doubt will happen. But thanks y'all for listening. We will see you in a couple of weeks. And as always, keep it done up real good yourselves out there, Greg. Take it easy, buddy.
Yep, you as well.
Thank you once again for listening to Taking on Sports here on the Alabama Take Family of Podcasts. We do hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, give us a rating, a like, a subscription, whatever it is on your chosen platform of podcast. And tell a friend about it. Tell someone you think would enjoy it. Tell a rich benefactor to invest in us and let us get paid for all this cool stuff. Also, check out all our other great podcasts like Taking It Down, our TV podcast on Tuesdays, the Alabama Slam, our pro wrestling podcast on Fridays, and check out other great intermittent podcasts like Check Your Shelf, This Song Sucks, We Are a Star War, and be on the lookout for new and exciting podcasts yet to come. Also, be sure to go to thealabamatake.com and check out our great writings and musings from our band of ne'er-do-wells and misfits here in the great state of Alabama. Keep it done up real good out there, folks.